All right, we're looking at linear functions, okay, linear functions, and we want to know some information about these linear functions. We know it's linear, so what? Let's figure some information out about that. Some of the information that we can pull from these linear graphs is what's called the x-intercept and the y-intercept. And so the y-intercept, go ahead and fill that in on your notes. The y-intercept is the y-coordinate of the point where the graph intersects the y-axis. And so if you look at the graph on the right-hand side here, the y-intercept is where the graph intercepts or intercepts. So if you have an interception in football, it intercepts the y-axis. So that graphed line, crosses the y-axis at the y-intercept. So those two lines, the y-axis and the graphed line, intercept at that point. And so the y-intercept would be negative 120 in this particular situation. And similarly, the x-intercept is the x-coordinate of the point where the graph intercepts the x-axis. Same idea. It's saying that we've got this point right here on the graph where the graphed line intercepts the x-axis. And so the y-intercept would be 0 at negative 120. The x-intercept is 4, 0. At this point, we're just going to concentrate on finding them. And then the last two notes on our, and the last two slides in your notes, we're going to look at what does that mean? How can we use that information to help us with any kind of a real-world situation? So we're going to start by just looking at the pure mathematics. How do we find them? Okay, when you have a graph, not so bad. If you're trying to find the x-intercept and the y-intercept, we can list them. I'm going to go ahead and put x, and x-int is a common abbreviation for the x-intercept, and the y-intercept, So the x-intercept is where the graphed line intercepts the x-axis. So it intersects at the point, or intercepts at the point, negative 2, 0. So the x-intercept, negative 2, 0. The y-intercept. Y-intercept is where the graphed line intercepts the y-axis. So the y-intercept is going to be 0, 1. Okay, we found the x and the y-intercepts. So from the graph, you're just looking at where does that graphed line intercept the x-axis, where does that graphed line intercept the y-axis. Try this one on your own. I'm assuming you paused it. I'm assuming you tried it on your own. You should have found the x-intercept and the y-intercept. And so the x-intercept, it crosses the x-axis at the point negative 2, 0. And it intercepts the y-axis, or the y-axis at 0, 3. So the x-intercept, negative 2, 0, the y-intercept, 0, 3. There's that y-intercept. Okay, and that's it. So that's the graph. That's how you find the x-intercept, y-intercept from the graph. You look at where it crosses the x-axis. You look at where it crosses the y-axis. Equations. Of course, we look at to infinity. When you start dealing with equations, it gets a little bit trickier. And so let's go back to the graph and take a look. You'll notice that the x-intercept always has a value for x and a 0 for y. And the y-intercept always has a value for y, and it always has a 0 for x. And that is consistent. Whenever you have the x-intercept and the y-intercept has a value for y, and the x-intercept has a value for x. The y-intercept has a 0 for x, and the x-intercept has a 0 for y, because we want to find the x-intercept, so the x-intercept has an x value, has a number for x. The y-intercept has a number for y. Let's see if we can use that to help us in this problem. I know that if I want to find the x-intercept, so I'm going to start with the x-intercept, simply because it's first in the alphabet. If I want to find the x-intercept, I know that there needs to be a value for x and a 0 for y. I need to know there's going to be a 0 for y. Let's use that to help. if y is going to be 0, I'm just going to say, well, 5x minus 2 times 0 equals 10. I know that if I solve this, if I'm trying to find the x-intercept, y has to be 0. It's the only way to get an x-intercept is when y is 0. Because if we look at the graph, the x-intercept is when y is 0. Here's 0 for y. The x-intercept is when y is 0. And so I know that y has to be 0. So let's solve. Well, 2 times 0 is 0. So 5x equals 10. You can either solve it by dividing both sides by 5, or just realize that 5 times 2 is 10. So x then, x is 2. So my x-intercept, 2, 0. We found the x-intercept. Let's try the same thing for y, the y-intercept. So I know based on what we said a little bit ago, that if I'm trying to find the y-intercept, y has to have a value, and x has to be 0. So looking back at my equation, y has to have a value, and x has to be 0. That's the y-intercept. So if I use my equation, x is 0, y is going to have some value. Now 5 times 0 is 0, so I've got negative 2y equals 10. And you can either solve by dividing both sides by negative 2, or realize that y would have to be negative 5. And so my y-intercept would be 0, negative 5. In fact, if you graphed that equation, you would see the same thing, that it would cross the x-intercept at 2, 0, and it would cross the y-axis at 0, negative 5. And that's how we use those patterns to help us find the x-intercept and the y-intercept from an equation. Stop on your own, give it a try, pause it, see if you can find the x-intercept and the y-intercept all by yourself. I'm assuming you paused it. I'm assuming you tried it on your own. And so the x-intercept, I can't use a whiteboard marker, sorry. The x-intercept should be negative 10, 0. And the y-intercept should be 0, 6. If you did not get the x-intercept to be negative 10, 0, if you did not get the y-intercept to be 0, 6, make sure you watch the linked video, watch the video below, and see how it's done. I'm going to have you do this on your own. What I want you to do on your own before you come to class, and this is your assigned material to do before you get to class to finish your notes, please graph this function. So you've got an equation here. I want you to try and graph that function. And I want you to try and find the intercepts. So where does it cross the x and the y axis? The last question here, the question where it says, what does each intercept represent? We will deal with that at the beginning of class. So don't worry about that right now. We'll work on it in class. But I'd like you to try and graph this and find the intercepts. Same thing with this one. I would like you to try and graph the function and find its intercepts. This part here, the what does each intercept represent, you can certainly try it. I encourage you to obviously work ahead, but we'll talk about that at the beginning of class. Okay, so watch the other video if you didn't get the correct answer here, and good luck on the form.